Welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews, everyone. Hope you are all having a wonderful evening, morning, afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are. I just hope it's wonderful. So, yeah, caught that echo.
Sorry.
But anyway, we are still waiting on one more, but we are going to get this shindig started. We are going to be discussing V for Vendetta. I am going to be doing single movies throughout the rest of the year and begin the series of movies stream discussions as the new year comes in. So the Tolkien universe will be discussed come the new year, and we'll start off with The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey, and move on to Return of the King in the weeks to follow. So this one is V for Vendetta, and I chose this movie because there are a lot of political parallels. This is going to be a political discussion as well as sharing our respect and love of the movie itself as well. Also, I do want to clarify straight out, I do not support any form of terrorism because, yes, there are terrorist acts in this movie, technically. And I just also want to say, because we all know that the YouTube overlords are paying attention nowadays, that I do not condone any forceful overthrowing of government or unlawful overthrowing of government. So, with that out of the way, we are going to introduce my panel, and with us we have the awesome one half of Force of Light Entertainment, Michelle. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. We got Metalong. Good to see you again.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
And we got Austinator, who I believe is new to the channel.
Yes. Thanks for having me on. Can't wait to talk about this awesome movie.
Yep. Now, does anybody want to plug any of their content before we get started?
I can. I'm half of Force of Light Entertainment. Let's see. Our last video was our reaction to the new Boba Fett trailer, so you can check that out, or any of our other discussions or commentary videos.
Alrighty, Austinator, anything?
I just do the occasional stream here and there because I got school at the moment, so it's kind of been erratic. But if you want to sub, I just do streams. I do the occasional video here and there. I might do a stream Sunday or this week, probably talking about Army of Thieves, and then I'm probably going to do one on Saturday doing a Freddy's Dead review. But like I said, right now it's just I'm just a straggler at the moment. I kind of just show up to everybody's streams at this point. So yeah, that's really it for me at this point.
Metalong, anything you want to plug?
I'm trying to do I got a gaming channel on YouTube that I'm trying to get up. I've been working on it over a year off and on. I do stream on Twitch every now and then. So,
alrighty. And we got a very active chat so far. We got Rough Girl in the chat. How you doing, Rough? Good to see you. We got P-Cat. Good to see you too. We got Epi the Oz. Always fun to have him in the chat. What possible parallels could there be about a man-made virus being used to spread fear and authoritarianism as people cower and submit to a government that cannot be questioned? And I, for one, welcome our Chinese overlord. Captain Trek, good to see you. So, yep. Caught up with the chat. It's a small one tonight so far. But I'm willing to bet it might grow. So, yeah. V for Vendetta. Now, before we do get into any of the movie part of it, we are going to go over a brief, small history of Guy Fawkes, who is the main inspiration for the masks that V uses, as well as the anonymous group in real life. Now, Guy Fawkes was a freedom fighter during the Protestant Reformation back in the 1600s and during the Protestant Reformation, basically England was ruled by Elizabeth I and then James I. Now, Elizabeth I, she was full-blown radical Protestant. She outlawed Catholicism in England. And then after a while, when she was succeeded by James, he had a more tolerant view of Catholicism. So he allowed people to practice, or Catholicism to be practiced once more, until Parliament forced or basically pressured him into reinforcing the laws that Queen Elizabeth enacted. Now, Guy Fawkes was one of 13 men who, over the years of 1603 to 1605, decided to have what is known as the gunpowder treason and plot, which is a very catchy line in this movie. Remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason treason and plot. I know of no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. Now, England, this is a holiday for them. They collect money to build an effigy, a life-sized straw figure of Guy Fawkes, and they burn him on this day. So back in England, pretty much sure it's November the 6th right now, but a few hours ago they basically had their bonfire. So yes, Guy Fawkes was underneath the Houses of Parliament and ready to just blow up Parliament at the time. Now, he was caught. They did stop him. And he and other conspirators were found and hung, put to death. But Scotland has a very different view of Guy Fawkes. There is a pub somewhere in Scotland, I cannot remember exactly where, but it has a picture of Guy Fawkes and says, Guy Fawkes, the only person to walk into Parliament with honest intentions. Now, we all know that politics is the devil's playground, and we know that many politicians cannot be trusted. Dare I say, all politicians cannot be trusted, because many of them do possess that lovely talent of a silver tongue. So, this movie then, does have a brief showing of what Guy Fawkes attempted to do and was stopped. And then it goes into the narration of Natalie Portman. And we then see Natalie Portman and V watching Prothero, the voice of London, during this movie. How he's talking about what happened in America, how there was a civil war, and how that's kind of relevant because there is actual talks of people thinking about a civil war in the United States today. We are a very divided country, unfortunately, right now. And we will continue to go over these as it moves on. Charles Moon, welcome to the channel. Thank you for stopping in. Politicians are like diapers. They stink and need to be changed often. You're right. Oh, also a funny note about Guy Fawkes before I go any further. He did fight for the Spaniards in the 80-year war, because this is coming from Epi. Hey, you with the mustache, what are you doing with those 30-odd barrels of gunpowder? Would you believe it if I'm just really enthusiastic about fireworks? But a lot of people say the word Guido is a derogatory term. Believe it or not, that is how he signed his name when he was fighting with the Spanish during the 80-year war. His name was Guido Fawkes, and it is spelled Guido. So that's an interesting piece of history. So, yes, we learn about the gunpowder treason, and we see that Evie, Natalie Portman's character, is getting ready for a rendezvous with somebody. And V is setting up his pristine boots. You actually see him dust off a little bit of dust from his boots. And then he's walking and she's walking, and there's a curfew out. This is in England. At the time of this movie's making, was around today's time, which is interesting in itself.
They're almost there.
Yeah. And so she then sees a couple fingermen. She gets scared, runs into the alley and runs into a couple of guys. And they start making some unwanted flirtations with her in a very heinous way. And she figures out that they're fingermen. Now, fingermen are basically like the SS in Nazi Germany. They're the authoritarian or secret police, if you will. So we then get introduced to V as they're getting ready to, well, I'm not monetized, so I can actually say it. They're getting ready to rape her. And V he loves spouting different lines from Shakespeare and other well-known written works throughout the centuries. Advances, yeah, that was the word I was thinking of, but I couldn't think of it or couldn't catch it in time. Thank you, Charles. So he then takes out the 3 fingermen that turn up, and I love how he does recite a line from Faust when he's about to knock out the last guy. And the guy's like, "What's that mean? Spare the rod," and just knocks the dude out. Now, during the time of Nazi Germany, if you know where to search and how to search, you will actually find that there are not only were women who were Jewish, were they brutalized, but some of them were actually raped by the SS. There is historical documentation on that.
I mean, that's very easy to believe.
Yeah.
I mean, when men, I mean, and I'm not putting, I mean, in this case, when people have that much power and authority and they're secretive, I mean, that's just going to go with the territory.
Anyone with absolute power is bound to abuse it, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was clearly a theater major in high school. Yeah, that was before the the reclamation, as they call it in the movie. So, we then get the nice little, well, in other word, or in lack of a better term, V-filled
monologue.
Yeah, that. Thank you. Gosh, I am so blanking tonight. But he literally uses pretty much every V word in the dictionary in this monologue. I cannot. I mean, I should have written it down, but basically, he's introducing himself in a way that he is, or that basically tells you exactly what happened to him. But unless you know the definitions of all these words, vox populi, and all of this stuff, you really aren't going to get it. And then he laughs it off, and he's like, "It's very nice to meet you, and you may call me V. Are you like a crazy person?" Well, that's pretty much what they would want you to think.
I remember that, seeing that in the theater, and I looked over at my brother. I'm like, my head hurts.
I know, right?
It's so clear he said all the V words.
Yeah. And I do like the last bit of it. He's like, "The only verdict is vengeance, a vendetta held as a votive, not in vain." And that basically is telling you his motive. Not only is his motives vengeance, but he's also trying to right the wrongs that were committed by his country and the government. Now, as I said before, folks, as a disclaimer, I do not support any acts of terrorism. Now, he takes Evie up to a building not far from where the Bailey stands, and he asks her what the date is. She's like, November the 4th. And then you hear the bell toll for midnight, and it's November the 5th. And he recites, remember, remember, the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plot lines. And he also asks her if she likes music, and he starts playing Tchaikovsky's Overture, hacked it through the microphones all throughout London. And he plays it. And then the building blows up. And he also dedicates this action to Madame Justice, or the fraud that has taken her place, which is another parallel to what goes on in our current state of affairs over here. There are certain acts that have been overlooked, and a lot of people are saying that justice is not really out there much anymore, and a lot of people are angry. And Charles Moon is actually doing the lines. Voila! In view, a humble vaudevillian veteran cast vicariously as both victim and villain by the vicissitudes of fate. This visage, no mere veneer of vanity, is a vestige of the vox populi, now vacant, vanished. I know that word is the next line, and I'm pretty sure he'll finish it. So yes, I love Epi loves crescendo, and believe it or not, a lot of the stuff that we are going through in the U.S. is also happening much worse in Australia in some areas. So yeah, also say prayers for Australia, folks. Now, yep, the continuation. However, this valorous visitation of a bygone vexation stands vivified, and has vowed to vanquish these venal and virulent vermin, guarding vice and vouchsafing the violently vicious and voracious violation of volition, is the last bit of it. I know that much. And then he cuts the V through the words, strength through unity, unity through faith, which also is something that was also, I said that twice, used in the Prothero scene where they were watching the nightly late night television, kind of like a twisted David Letterman. So yes, it has become basically Nazi Germany and England in this movie, and it's also based on the graphic novel of the 80s. But basically, religion of any other kind other than Christianity is outlawed. Catholicism, Buddhism, Taoism, Hinduism, all of it, and Islam is extremely banned in this form of England, which does visit another parallel. We have currently in our country, Catholicism and Christianity is kind of being vilified right now, because anybody who believes in God and has their faith in Christ basically are called extremists, because, well, we have a belief system that helped shape our society. And because of progressivism and whatnot, they feel that it is time for that to go.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this movie gets so much right, while also kind of missing what groups they would be coming against.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just like in this, of course, as you said, Christianity is the only thing accepted, where today, like, they accept everything else, but that one is just kind of not cool in our society. Yeah. And then also, they show that, they treat horribly any person who is a homosexual, and not homosexuals necessarily, but kind of say even that like, so
any LGBTQ.
Yes, but it's like that group that, like, they will so strongly come against people who dare have any different views regarding, maybe the trans situation or any of that.
Mm-hmm. And folks, you know how some of our more vocal and, in my own opinion, insane politicians love to say that there are concentration camps in the United States. Well, there were literally concentration camps in this movie that they talked about. One such institution was known as Lark Hill. It was labeled as a detention facility, but they did virology tests there. And a lot of you might have your ears perk up at virology. Well, we are also in the midst of a pandemic, as we all know. So, we then see the Council of Literal Fascism and Dictatorship with John Hurt. This movie has a brilliant cast, by the way. Natalie Portman is a decent actor. Hugo Weaving. This is from the Wachowski. Well, now I got to say siblings legally, because if I say brothers, I would be misgendering them, apparently. So I'll say the Wachowskis. How about that? There. Suck it, YouTube. Anyway, the Wachowskis did The Matrix, and you see a lot of production from The Matrix actually made their way over here to V for Vendetta after The Matrix was done. I don't suppose they were messing with the SARS virus as well. I can't remember what it was in the movie. They never really give a specific name to the virus that the movie uses. But go ahead.
God, I know it had something to do. Wasn't it the St. Mary's virus?
That was the school. That was the school in the movie. St. Mary's was a children's academy that the government let the virus loose on.
Yeah, I think that's what they coined it. I think that's what they coined the what they called it in the film too, with the virus and stuff.
They called it they called the event the St. Mary's Massacre, plus the contamination of Three Waters, which is a water treatment plant, and another place, I can't remember where it was, but it does bear interest. Now, I am not stating, folks, I do not get too far into conspiracy theories here. I am not saying that our government allowed the current virus pandemic of our time to infect the country, but there are many people who actually believe it did happen. Now, I'm not saying any of those people are correct or incorrect. I'm simply saying that everybody is entitled to their own opinion. Believe what you want. It's still a free country as far as I remember.
It is right now.
Yeah.
I mean, in the next few years, it might not be. It depends on what happens in the next few months, really. So, the council also has a line at the end of their little spiel of their investigation, and also the Tchaikovsky's 1812 overture is now blacklisted, which is something that is going on today. Or they burn book, or people are burning books, folks. Not seen since Nazi Germany, 1940s, where books that held any sort of violation of opinion or difference of opinion, they got rid of it. Or but in this case, Harry Potter books were burned. Dr. Seuss books were burned.
Hey, and Dr. Seuss has been canceled.
Yeah, Dr. Seuss is canceled. Yeah. I mean, blacklisting and canceling in this instance are basically one and the same thing. Cancel culture will basically lead to full-on censorship.
Well, and it's worth pointing out that, yes, I know there are some few in our country that are burning literal books. I've seen it. Mm-hmm. But it's worth pointing out in our, that was back in the Nazi time when they did that. It's worth pointing out in our day, they are burning books left and right, but it's just done virtually by control of what can be said, what information can be found, and that type of thing. That's no different than burning books in the 1930s than what they're doing today. It just doesn't get. It's not as there's not really a show done with it. They're just doing it privately.
Yeah. And also, to be truthful, Epi the Oz basically pointed out the Let's Go Brandon song has been banned on certain mediums.
I know Canada banned it.
Yep. So, yeah, they've also blacklisted songs today in current time. So there is another parallel. If you watch this movie, folks, you will see these parallels.
Mm-hmm.
If you are not afraid to actually keep an open mind when watching this movie. The big difference is in that the censorship is from the government, while in reality it's the corporations and activists doing it. That is partially true.
Yeah, they go hand in hand. Like, you can't separate them. They are wings of the same party at this point. They all work together. I mean, it's the bottom line. The government could step in if they want, but they don't want them to because they enjoy what they're doing.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So then the new Bailey, or the destruction of the old Bailey courthouse, I think it is. It did have a statue of Lady Justice on it. So I'm guessing it was a courthouse. Now, the government decided to spin the story and say that there was structural integrity problems and that it was a demolition crew that basically used fireworks to give her a grand send-off, which the council basically says. And also the England Prevails tagline use, something our government uses with the Build Back Better agenda. Now, I'm also going to be fair, folks. The other side uses other taglines as well. Conservatives use Keep America Great, Make America Great Again, Save America. Taglines are not necessarily an evil thing, but they can also be used as an evil thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I heard that Build Back Better, and then all of a sudden I'm hearing it from like other world leaders, I'm like, okay, this is
it's NWO. It's New
Yeah.
World Order. Destroying statues. Oh, yeah. Yep. The statues that have been of constant destruction throughout our country. They've destroyed statues of Confederates, as well as Confederates who actually defected to the Union during the Civil War.
Well,
Heroes that actually changed sides.
We're destroying Christopher Columbus and everyone is going down in this.
Abe Lincoln.
Yeah,
I am shocked that the Lincoln Memorial has not been touched yet.
Yeah.
Oh, I won't be shocked if it does soon.
I won't be shocked either. But yes, folks, they're ripping down statues all over the country of people who actually fought against racism and whatnot.
That's because a lot of them aren't being educated about it. What was it? Was it in Seattle or something? One guy that led the abolitionist movement or something, and they destroyed and they just defaced that statue without even knowing who he was.
Yep, I believe it was. God, I can't remember his name. But he was, or they also defaced a statue of a black person who was a very prominent figure in our own history that helped give freedom or help build or pave the way for Martin Luther King. I can't remember his name. I know that's shocking. But anyway, so then we get to the news where the cops are looking for Evie, and Stephen Fry plays the detective who is also on this council. And
no, Stephen Fry is not the officer.
Or yeah, it's not Stephen Fry. It's a different Stephen. Stephen Fry is another different talk show host.
Mm-hmm.
Gordon Dietrich. But yes, I hear somebody typing in, so I know that they're looking for it.
It's me.
Yeah.
I have a loud keyboard.
Hey, whatever works, man.
Stephen Rea.
Yeah,
R-E-A?
Stephen Ray. Yeah,
Ray. Okay.
and he's actually in a few good movies that I've actually did discussions on. He was in the 4th Underworld movie as one of the Lycans, which is pretty good. I like a lot of different movies, folks. Stephen is much more likable in this movie as the TV host. Yeah. They also defaced the statue honoring the first all-black regime in the UN. Yep, they did that too. So yes, you will see so many parallels in this movie, folks. And the news spinning the destruction of the Old Bailey. And I love what they say. We don't fabricate the news. That's the government's job. Or we report the news. Or fabricating the news is the government's job. Well, you're still complicit in the action. And there lies in another parallel. There is a reason why people say news agencies like MSNBC and CNN are just Democratic talking point left-wing party, or of the left-wing party. They basically are just spouting nothing but propaganda for left side politics. And Rough Girl, good to see you back. And yep, I love the movie too. Honestly, the movie does have its fair share of objective quality issues, but when it comes to subjective, I absolutely love it. So, also, if anybody misbehaves in the chat, Rough Girl has no problem putting you in timeout. And Soul Assassin, good to see you. Thank you for stopping in as well. He's also a good mod, so my assassin will either assassinate you and put you in timeout, or the Rough Girl will get rough and put you in timeout. So, yes, behave, folks. Not that anybody has been misbehaving, but yeah. Now, Evie or V then goes to the news agency, or comes right in, bomb to chest, ready to blow the damn place up. And I love that guy. He's like, "You tell me what you want, or I'll get Storm Saxon on your ass." He just opens his chest. He's like, and flicks up the detonator. Fucking hell. So then we see how he is basically taking over the newsroom, and he sent a lot of outfits that he wears: cape, Guy Fawkes, wig, all of it. And while the cops are there, they were looking into Evie Hammond because they found out where she works and where she lives. They find out that her parents were political activists, and they were put into prison for having a different opinion. Also, sound familiar, folks? People being arrested and held without trial for a difference of opinion. January 6th, peaceful protesters have been confirmed, arrested, held without trial, held without bail, and the government basically wants to try them as terrorists. So yeah, another check mark of parallels. So what does everybody else think of all of this? I know I've been talking a lot, so I'm going to let the panel have a little bit of a time to chat on this.
Well, if you want me to say anything, I mean, about the political stuff of it, we can discuss that. But I think this movie is just so kind of refreshingly unique. Like I rewatched it, I think about the beginning of this year, and you're just kind of immediately grabbed by this movie. And yeah, there's, as you said, there's a few parts like I could take out if I wanted or fast forward. But for the most part, it's just V's just such a fascinating character, and the story is just kind of a classic story in the sense of the issues that are being raised are kind of timeless issues, really. Some of the politics, as we're kind of pointing out, are a little bit dated. You can kind of, as them trying to nail down who's going to be the authoritative party, but an authoritative government is something that you kind of see throughout history. So that's where there's kind of this timeless factor to me with this movie.
Yep. Along anything?
Sorry, I was looking at your chat. Well, one of the things that I got on there when I remembered watching the movie Because I was thinking about at the time that the comic book was written. If you think about it, a lot of the stuff during the 80s is just a lot of things that conservatives or maybe even most of the Republicans back in that time, they weren't really for gay marriage of any kind, and they wanted a little bit more control of stuff as well. And I think they just took that and just like pushed it 10 times worse than what it would actually become. And nowadays things have almost like flip-flop between the two groups.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Democrats, the left wants more power, and Republicans don't know what they want. They don't even think they know what they're doing anymore.
Yeah. Austinator?
Well, when it comes to the movie in general, I think this movie's fantastic. I think it is a little dated in terms of some of its messages that it's trying to convey, but it's actually striking to me just how similar everything that we're going through, this movie actually kind of predicted unintentionally a while ago. So I was like, holy crap. And V himself is just a very, like, in his own way, he's a very unique character because you don't really see a lot of characters like that. Like, sure, you got your usual characters with the mask on and whatever, but his mask is very unique. And
very true.
I think visually this movie looks good. It just, the cinematography is great. The story is something that it's not, I mean, if this came out today, this movie would be canceled right away.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
Like, this movie would have been like, oh, how dare you bring this up? And I'm just like, but this movie is is what actually kind of what we need now.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of concerning that a lot of the things that are happening are things that are pretty accurate. And and when we talk about more about the politics side of it, there's a lot of similarities, like the news and stuff, as well as even just like everything going up to the top of the chain. It's striking.
Yeah, it indeed really is. So then V basically goes off on the emergency channel, and there are many lines that come to or that really ring out or ring true, where once you had the freedom to object, to think and speak as you saw fit, now you have censors and systems of surveillance coercing your conformity. And, well, if you really think of it, what does the news like to do? And what does Twitter and social media like to do if they hear or see anything that people don't, or that certain talking points are trying to shed light on?
Well, they spin it.
Yep, they spin, they censor. War, terror, disease, there was a myriad of problems designed to corrupt your reason and rob you of your common sense. I think that is one of the more important lines, as well as the next one. And with the promise of order, all that was required was silent, obedient consent. Basically, what he was saying is that if people asked problems, it was a bad thing, and people were getting rounded up in the movie, in the history of that movie's universe. And they were basically, if you had any opposing thoughts whatsoever, you were rounded up, black bagged, as they call it, from the fingermen. You were arrested, and fear basically stopped people from continuing to ask questions, to have freedom of thought, to have freedom of speech. And yes, this is indeed being done today. It is, and it sucks. And Kitty, help us on. Whoever's cat was.
It's mine. We rescued a kitten that's 6 months old. He got hit right in front of her house, and he only had a broken leg and he recovered. And the other ones, we have 4 other ones, and they're adjusting to them. Yeah.
So then he places the bomb in the booth, and the guy who gets called by the chancellor, he actually has no problem talking right back to this chancellor. It's like, You designed it, sir. You wanted it foolproof. You said every TV in London. He's not going to take, or this guy is part of that council that we saw earlier in the movie, and his name's Dascombe, and it's like, I'm not going to let this get pinned on me, you know? And so I love the fight sequences in this movie.
Yeah.
That is another thing that I do like. So shifting over to the movie part of it, and a little bit off of the politics for a bit. The fight sequences in this movie, and as Austin there said, the cinematography, the tight moves inside close quarters and whatnot is very well done. The cameramen knew what they were doing. And one of the things I did like is how V uses the cop as protection against getting shot, and then moves into the other cop, stabs him face to face, and then he just moves off, and then you see the guy just drop. And it's like, it's just, I'm saying this not as, or don't take this the wrong way, folks, but there is a very intimate thing about looking in a person's eyes as they die, which is very something that is done a lot in movies. So basically, it's kind of as if V was watching his soul basically leave his body as he killed him, in a sense. And then you see Evie mace a cop, and he gets knocked out. And then V knocks out the cop. So, yeah. We then get the abduction of Evie, so to speak. And we get introduced to the Shadow Gallery. And she's like, where'd you get all this stuff? Oh, the Department of Objectionable Materials. Basically, and she's like, you stole all this. Heavens no. You cannot steal from the censor. That implies ownership. I merely reclaimed it. And he's not wrong. You can't steal from a censor.
That's true.
So, yeah. Hey, Nyla, it's good to see you. And yes, I have seen They Live. It is, in a way, very similar, but also very different of V for Vendetta, where V for Vendetta is a comic book movie. They Live deals with extraterrestrial and consumerism to an obscene level. And one of the things I do like about the Shadow Gallery is this is where I actually identify with V. You know the scene where he's pretend sword fighting, folks? I've done that. Even today, I've done that. I have freaking canes, because I also had knee surgery a while back, so yeah, I have canes. And I'm like, and I'll just swing them around and pretend I'm sword fighting and whatnot. And you know what? It's freaking fun. Who doesn't like to just let loose, you know? Even nowadays. I mean, who in the panel has actually acted out playfully from movies and whatnot in their own minds?
Oh, in the mine? Oh, yeah.
Well, also physically too.
Yes, both.
Yeah.
I would have to say I have with a lightsaber, but not just a sword.
Yeah. Sword, lightsaber. Hey, they're both weapons of a bladed variety. So it works, you know? Who doesn't want to let their kid or their inner child come out, you know? And I love the embarrassment. He's like, oh, God, okay. Well, hello. It's like, oh my. Because it's like getting caught with your hand in the cookie jar. It's really fun to watch a grown adult get caught freaking playing around like that. It's like, oh my God, dear. Like, oh, hello. It's just really funny to watch. And Hugo Weaving does a brilliant job with all of this. The writing of his character is some of the best I've seen in movies. Whether they are movies that I've seen in the 80s, 90s, today, or 2000s, and even today, much of how he delivered his lines was very freaking well done. And I absolutely thought that it was a perfect casting choice for V being the guy who played Agent Smith in The Matrix.
I didn't even know it was him until after I saw the movie.
Yeah.
It wasn't until a scene later in the movie that you see part of his face. I'm like, wait, is that? And you could actually hear his voice, because most of the time when he's wearing a mask, it's kind of like echoed.
It's muffled. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Rambo 2 and Star Wars, I loved reenacting as a kid. Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. And Annihilus, I got access to HBO Max, and I was extending an entire show on there. I never did see it all the way through. Okay, that's talking back and forth. Only problem with Hugo is his legs are shot, so he can't use kicks or anything like that. Yeah. Even during the special features of The Matrix, they showed that he while he can get the kicks up, he's more of a brawler with fists, his characters. Or his characters always are more hands instead of feet. And it took me a while to draw the connection. And Soul Assassin, it's only weird if you stop pretend sword fighting.
Yeah.
His legs didn't get shot. Basically, they old age Annihilus. That Hugo's in his, or was I believe in his 40s when he did Matrix movie, or he was in his 40s to 50s when he was doing the Matrix movies. I wish I had my Echo Dot up here. I could actually ask how old Hugo. You know what? Screw it. I'll search it right now. How old is Hugo Weaving? 61 years old. So yeah, he was in his 40s. And yeah. So Evie, when she realizes that she cannot leave until a year later, because V basically says, I invite you all to join me later for a 5th of November that will never ever be forgot and whatnot. So basically he tells everybody, I'm going to blow up Parliament like Guy Fawkes was supposed to do 400 plus years ago. He basically gave away the plot. So, I do like the Shadow Gallery. All those books that you see, the stacks of books, they're all screwed together. They're all glued, screwed, and all sorts of different ways to keep the books from tumbling down. Because if you do look in the background, you see that there are mountains of books in that place. Mm-hmm. So what did you all think of the Shadow Gallery? Throughout the movie, you see different parts of it and whatnot.
We are talking, that is his house, right?
Yes, that is his home.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just, again, I think it adds to the mystique of the character. Like, it just is, it's very fitting of this masked man that's interesting, that you can't really figure out, and you don't really know what he wants necessarily with Natalie Portman. And it just, that's the way I'd add. Like, it's just, it's a lot of unique stuff that's kind of in this place, and it adds to his character, of the fascination with this character.
Yeah. But it also gotten like all of his even more motivation than what he was already going through, or maybe that's how he gained his motivation from the things he's found.
That plus what happened to him, which is revealed later on. So, just to go back to the political aspect again, to touch on the final bit of that speech, fairness, justice, and freedom are more than words. They are perspective. Or they are perspectives, which basically, they're more than just perspectives as well. Fairness, justice, and freedom, they're God-given. Mm-hmm. They're basically, these are things you cannot take away from people. No matter how hard you try, they will eventually come right back to the people. His house was mainly made up of things he robbed from the Chancellor. Yes, he steals from the Chancellor and from the Department of Objectionable Materials. That was an actual thing that is actually in the movie because, as the Chancellor said, put it on the blacklist and never want to hear that music ever again, you know? Now, when she's like, I maced that cop. I can't believe I must have been out of my mind. Is that what you really think, or is that what they would want you to think? That is another important line to basically get further into this. When you stop thinking for yourself, when you stop asking questions, you're lost. You are basically, you've given up. You don't have the drive to figure out what the truth is. You're more focused on your truth or their truth. There's no such thing as your truth, their truth, his truth, her truth, its truth. There's the truth, folks. And then there's everything that is trying to spin the truth. And yes, while we may believe one thing or another, the truth is sometimes inside of what we believe. It may not be the absolute truth that we believe, because we would like to believe other things as well, but the truth is sprinkled in there somewhere, you know? And I do like the scene where he's making eggy in a basket, so to speak, the egg on toast, and how he flips it. And I can actually do that, by the way. I am very good in the kitchen. When I'm making eggs, I flip the damn omelets as if they are nothing. I can do all of that, folks. So if you ever come over to my place, ever meet up and whatnot, if I'm making you eggs, I'll show you that I can flip that sucker like a pro. So then Evie notices his hands and he's like, looks down. Yes. He puts on his gloves. She's like, are you all right? Yeah, it was a long time ago. And she's like, and he's like, it was a fire. It's not a pleasant table conversation. So you know that he's a gentleman as well. I mean, if that isn't already apparent, this dude is a very gentlemanly. And one of the things I do like about V, you never see his face in this movie. You see an outline. You see, or the way that they actually purposefully later gone in during post and darkened his face, even with the light shining in back of him, they darken it in post. Because back when I was watching the DVD, when I had it on DVD, you can actually hear him or see his face a little bit. But now if you go back on like Blu-rays and digital, you actually see his face is blacked out all the way. Pics or it's not true, Orange, I demand a Twitter vid. I'll tell you what, when I can, or I'll try doing it sometime for you, Soul Assassin, and for anybody who follows me on Twitter. Just make sure you get the bell on, folks. If you're following me on Twitter, I am heavily shadow banned. So definitely click on click the notification bell. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, or if you're new to the channel or to any of these folks' channels, get that bell on, because it does help the channels. Smash the like button if you are here. As the scroll says, please like, subscribe, share, and stay humble. And yeah, so they get to talking about she starts asking him about what he believed, or did he believe everything he says. He tells her every word. Do you really think that blowing up a building is going to change things? The building is a symbol, as is the act of destroying it. And if there are enough people behind this symbol, blowing up a building can change the world. And she is sort of taken with this. You could actually see that she is following this. She's thinking he's a nutcase at this point, but she is also slightly agreeing with it, even though she wants to think that she is agreeing only to assuage him. And we also get the very famous line, people should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people. Folks, if there is ever a truer line that has been spoken on film, I believe it would be very hard to find, because that is one of the truest lines that has great relevance today. People should not be afraid of their governments. Believe me, when during the last election, the 2020 election, when I heard that somehow an octogenarian diaper-wearing incontinent Dodger won an election. And folks, before you say anything, all that has been verified.
That's putting it nicely.
Yeah, it is putting it nicely. But he's not well. When I heard that he won an election, it'd be like, how can somebody who can't even, or who won't even take a cognitive test be president? You know?
The other thing is, in spite of how my wife is like a little opposite on me on some of this stuff, she also agreed. It's like, the bad part is we were voting for two people over 70 years old.
Yeah. Well,
That
one
was
of them
the worst
passed the
part.
cognitive test with flying colors. The other one never took it. He was supposed to take it 2 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, to me, with politicians, I care less about their age and more about, are they? Because you can be a 70-year-old and be in great shape, or you can be a 70-year-old and be falling apart. I mean, it's just it's kind of, everything's kind of different with different people.
Yeah, she literally described both presidential candidates during the 2020 election. Good job there.
Like, the only politicians I like are the ones that actually get shit done, not talk big game
Yeah.
and are incompetent fucking morons.
I mean, you're absolutely right. Because that's one of the reasons why back in 2016 I voted for Trump. I'm not afraid to admit that. And I voted for him in 2020 because if they had a different person, I don't know, maybe Tulsi, I would have actually been conflicted. Because Tulsi was decently and willing to work across the aisle. Yeah, Trump was up for re-election, but sometimes the guy did say some stupid stuff. I'm not saying anything, or I'm not going to go into what he said, but we're also getting off topic. So getting back to the movie, she then goes off and into her own thoughts. And we also are visited with the visitation to Prothero, the voice of London, where he's talking, or where he's at his home, and he's visited by V. And V keeps on calling him Commander. He's like, stop that. Why do you keep on calling me that? That was your title back then. You wore a suit. And you see the little flashbacks. That's another thing I do like, is how they do give small little flashbacks without giving the full context until much later when the revelations are meant to come out. Political, yes. Solus has, and thank you. Notice the political statements do not represent Orange Hat Productions. Don't get butt hurt because nobody cares. Thank you. Is Trump technically a POC since orange is a color? Does that make him the less racist option by default? Oh, I love that. And Riot Kitty, good to see you. The first time I heard of V for Vendetta is in 6th grade when I had to make a presentation on types of language phrasing, and I looked up onomatopoeias. Yeah. I never thought Trump was racist, just political sides with wedge issues. I voted for him twice. Yep. And white is a color. We are all POC. Well, that is true. I mean, to be completely honest, everybody's etymology comes from Africa, the cradle of civilization. So, yeah. Anyway, white is technically all the colors. Yeah, FMA. So we then see that he is dead and the cops are investigating his murder. How are we going to spend this? How are we going to spend this? How are we going to spend it? Maybe a stroke. No, too horrific. Maybe something peaceful, died in his sleep. And then we get to that scene where Evie catches V playfully playing around with a suit of armor. And I just love her reaction when he slices the damn thing's head off. She's like, what? Her mouth is just, he's like, oh my God. Oh, and getting caught. It's just so freaking funny. And then they watch the Count of Monte Cristo. he watches it over so she can see it. And then they see the news report that Louis Prothero was killed. And she's like, V, I couldn't find my ID earlier. And he had used it to get into Prothero's home. So I absolutely love how he is just openly honest with her. She's like, she's like, did you have anything to do with that? The death of Louis Prothero, because she realized that the reporter was lying because she was blinking a lot. And if you pay attention to that scene, if you see that before she says that, she's not blinking a lot, but she's blinking enough. But then after she says she blinks a lot when she reports a story she knows is false, you then see that woman blinking a mile a minute. So she's like, did you have anything to do with that? Yeah, I killed him. What? It's like, he just blatantly admits it. She's like, and are you going to kill more people? Yes. And he's just open about it. He won't lie to her. And he even asks her, do you prefer a lie or the truth? And it really is a wonderfully written scene. Yes, it's very serious. I mean, this dude just fully admitted to murdering a person. And then he says, there are no courts for men like Prothero. Well, another parallel again. Look at how many people have skated the law, done horrible things, and are not held to account right now.
Yeah.
I mean, we could name a few, but it would take all night, folks. So we're going to just continue on with the movie, shall we? And she offers to help him later on, and she also tells him why she wants to help him. She explains her past with her parents. Her father was a writer, and one of the famous things that he said was, artists tell or use lies to tell the truth, where politicians use lies to cover the truth up. And after her brother died at St. Mary's because of the whole viral outbreak back then, her parents became more political, and she was helping them out. And during the protests, her parents got black bagged, and she ended up getting sent to a reformation thingy. And okie dokie, Michelle. Folks, Michelle will be having to go in a little bit. So, Riot, or not Riot, but any mods in the chat, I believe Soul Assassin, definitely give or plug Force of Lights Entertainment's channel while she's still here. And before you go, is there anything else you would like to talk about before you do?
No, just I mean, I was glad you asked me on, because I think this is a great movie again, and or as I said before, and just has so many parallels to today. I mean, it's literally, it's crazy when you watch it, and it's so interesting. I mean, I think everyone was posting quotes from this movie today. I mean, it's had a pretty large impact upon people, and I mean, it's one of those movies that you're kind of glad it has because of the messaging in it about standing against an authoritative government.
Indeed. And I do also want to thank Michelle from Force of Light Entertainment for joining tonight's stream. It was great to have you here. Also, how would you rate?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, how would you rate V for Vendetta out of 10?
Oh, I mean, I would give it like a 9 out of 10, or maybe a 10 out of 10 on a certain. When I watched it around I was like the beginning of January. I watched this movie. I was smiling ear to ear. Let's just put it this way: when the music gets going and the fireworks are going, and I mean, this movie, it's a really good movie. I mean, really, really just well done, well acted. The characters are unique. And it's just such a most unique comic book story I've ever seen. You forget it's a comic watching
Yep.
this.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, it's just it's a fantastic movie. It really is.
Yeah. Soul Assassin appear 5 times and you get a free orange hat. I could make that a thing. I mean, it might entice people to come back more. But yeah. But I do want to thank you for joining tonight's stream.
Yes, thank you for having me, and nice talking with you other gentlemen as well.
Yep.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yes.
So, yep, we're going to continue on for further. And again,
no.
Or if you want to say something.
I was just going to say, yeah, I'll let you gentlemen carry on.
All righty. Thank you again.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And Mongo's in the chat. Yes, they experimented on V. They actually, from his own blood, they managed to derive the virus because he had crazy immune cells. That's why he was like a crazy powerful. Yes, he did have slightly enhanced strength and durability. So, yep. They did experimental hormone injections, I think. I believe that is exactly what they did. So we then get to the bishop, who was a insane pedophile priest. Well, another parallel, shall we say?
Shocker.
There are priests and, well, even nuns who were like that. We're not going to deny that, folks. That shit happened. So, yeah, the bishop, or there are several party members on this list of people, and you then find out from the from the detective who's investigating all this, Christ, he's killed them all except for one. And this is after he killed the Voice of London. There's one left. Then he kills the bishop, and Natalie Portman is looking. She actually looks young when she's dolled up.
Yeah,
And it's like, that is almost disturbing in such a sick way. And you see this priest I'm like, dear God, this dude is seriously selling it in a way that's just sadly creepy. It almost makes you wonder if this dude actually did this shit, you know?
Well, it is Hollywood.
Yeah.
yeah.
True. Very true. And I do love how the people are freaking recording his audio, like security people for the government. And he's like, stick out your tongue, open your mouth. And this guy is creepy, man. I don't want to die. And then they're like, oh shit, yeah, this is serious. Oh, we're getting some more people in here. Is this a raid? Hello, Christian Almanza and Sherry. Good to see you. It did happen, but it's also something that happens in every institution in religion. The Catholic Church got a lot of crap because it's the largest church and the one true church founded by Jesus. Yes. Natalie was famously sexualized as a child after her appearance in Leon the Professional. So she was sadly somewhat perfect for the role. Yeah, I do remember that. And that was indeed very disturbing. And yes, I do believe she was 23 for the role. She was 18, or she was 19, I believe, in 2002, actually, because she had that's why she was able to show tummy in Star Wars Episode 2. I'm not privy to the comics, but the movie suggests something like that. Yeah. The priest was a good actor, wanted to kick his ass. He was that convincing. Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Indeed. And when I also love when she's talking with him. They have that scene of him or in slow motion jumping in onto the roof, which is a nice freaking shot. I mean, it's just one that seems perfect for a comic book movie.
It does.
Evening Sherry. Crazy that Natalie also played in Revenge of the Sith earlier that year. Yeah.
Well, I looked it up. She's only 40 now.
Yeah. She's my
just
brother's
a year
age.
younger than me.
Yeah. She's my brother's age. She was born in 81.
Mm-hmm.
So we then learn Stephen Fry's Gordon. She gets out, or she escapes from V, and she goes to Gordon Dietrich's house, the guy she was supposed to meet in the beginning of the movie. And he's a talk show host who has a secret, and he is honest with her, and she was honest with him. So he shows her his own little shadow gallery, as it were. I'm stoked to see her as Thor. Yeah. Some of us are, some of us aren't. Let's just say that. I mean, I know that there is a female Thor. I had no problem with a female Thor that basically is able to wield his power. It's just how the marketing is that's kind of turning me off of it, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, back to V for Vendetta. He has 12th Night, or no, God Save the Queen of Chancellor Sutler looking like Queen Elizabeth. Shalom. Yeah. He has a copy of the Quran, which is highly illegal in the movie. If they catch that with him, he would be executed, which, foreshadowing, does happen. And then while she's talking, she looks past his shoulder, and he actually catches her look past his shoulder, and she sees the BDSM photos and whatnot. And he's like, you're probably wondering why they sent you to or why I invited you over and whatnot. And we all have our own demons in our own way. Basically, he's explaining that when you work for the government and you are expected to behave in a certain way, casting couch as a governmental casting couch, basically, folks. You got to entertain young women, and you basically got to show them a good time. And you got to see if they're willing to do what's needed to get out there. Marty, you know what BDSM is. Don't you dare try freaking having me explain that shit to you. Nice try, buddy. Well, A for effort, my friend. A for effort. Yeah, my coworker is getting into that. Well, you better not be. You're engaged, aren't you? I saw V for Vendetta earlier this year, and it's crazy how much of this is actually happening with the lockdowns and everything. Yes, as I said, there are insane parallels. Pretty much almost every part of this movie, I'm not going to say everything, is, well, that's a lie. Pretty much most of this movie is paralleled to what is going on in the United States today. That is not an exaggeration, folks. If you want to see what we've discussed earlier while Michelle was here, just watch the replay and you'll see some of it, but we'll also continue to discuss it further in. Now, then we see the nice little hilarious skit that Stephen Fry's character shows, and he's like, we threw out the censor-approved script and used one that I wrote this morning. And we also get how he made her eggy in a basket as well. And he then basically, he's like, well, there's only one real logical explanation for it, isn't there? What? Well, obviously, I am V. And he's like, Viva la revolution. And she's like, that is not funny, Gordon. I know. I'm useless without a television audience. Stephen Fry can do deadpan humor with the best of them.
Yeah.
He really can.
He really
and
is.
then he's like, but he is right, isn't there? There really is something wrong with this country. You know. Yeah. He's getting a new apartment in Amberg with ceiling supports for some work swing apparatus. It's basically a sex swing, dude. It's. I know. I have friends too. You know. That's actually what I loved about the prequels and how George Lucas showed how Palpatine rose to power. The politics were great, in my opinion. Yes, but the politics in the prequels were old historical politics, not modern day politics.
Yeah.
Yes, some people can easily say that there are modern politics used into it, but honestly, there was not. That was political biased and subjective thought. Where if you actually look at what's going on today and look at this movie, you can actually find objective, factual parallels. So we see in the skit that Dietrich or Gordon Dietrich is talking with High Chancellor Sutler, played by the brilliant and legendary actor John Hurt. If he were or wants to be trussed up like okay, yeah, moving on. But yeah, where he's looking for, or he's told that the terrorist has been neutralized, and he puts the little cigar joke in there, the exploding cigar. You see the terrorist tying his shoes. Then he's like, "Look, the terrorist!" And everybody's just looking at him while he's running a spoon across the zoo thingy or the instrument. And then he's trying to chase him, and then you just get the lovely little musical thing of him getting chased. Honestly, the politics in the prequels were its own. It fit into the world, and instead of trying to fit into or fit the world into current politics. Yes, exactly. Now, then I love how they take his mask off, and it's two Chancellor Sutlers, and it's like liar, phony, fake, fraud, ready, aim, fire, and they shoot both of them. And then you see Steven bow out, and then you see V come up, or a person come up dressed like him and doing the little sniggering sound with the cigar, and you see Sutler watching this with his glass of warm milk, and he shatters the milk in his hand, so you know he's pissed off. And she's like, he's then on the phone with his agent. He's like, "You're my agent, protect me." Should have paid him to be my mother. And she's like, "You're insane. Either that or I wasn't breastfed. Is everything a joke to you? Only the things that matter." It's like, are you sure this guy's not V? Jareth would have none of this. Yeah. And yeah, it would. Seriously, I'm trying to imagine SNL having the balls to mock the current sitting president. Oh, believe me, Epime, if they did that, they might actually get me to watch an episode of SNL.
I think it's been nearly 20 years since I watched it, or even attempted to watch SNL, to be honest.
To be honest, that's the same amount of time here too. I don't watch SNL. I don't find it funny in the least.
It stopped being funny after the 90s.
Yeah. And so he's like, "I'll tell you what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to write some boring apology, then do some boring fundraiser, and everything will be fine. Trust me." Well, later that night, quick, Evie, hide! Just as as her mother told her when she was getting black bagged. So she hides under the bed, and pucker up, here comes the finger. Mr. Creedy's resignation. Mr. Creedy himself comes in and just rods Dietrich, black bags him, hauls him off. And then you see Evie get black bagged when she tries escaping the house. Now you think she is caught. You indeed think she is caught, folks. There is no betrayal here of the true intentions of this scene. You think she's caught. You see her getting shaved down. You see her getting tortured. You see her getting freaking steamed. You see all of it happen to her. And then you see her reading the note on toilet paper from a woman named Valerie, and you get Valerie's story. Sorry. And isn't it funny how the tyrant sutler acted all high and mighty when behind a screen, but was pissing his pants when his own people handed him over to V and when he knew he was going to die? Yeah. Basically, I guarantee you, if it happened to any president, even Trump, even Biden, Obama, any of them, if they were hauled down on their knees, put on their knees with a gun to their head, I bet you $1,000,000 they would be whining, or they would be pissing themselves and fearing for their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Because honestly, which one of them ever served? I'm just being honest, folks.
Um,
The answer is none of them.
Bush was in it, but he was never in. He never actually fought.
I only mentioned the previous three presidents.
Oh, sorry. No,
But
no,
yes,
no,
Bush was in it, but he never seen combat, so to speak.
I want to say Trump was there, but then he got out of it somehow. As for Obama did not serve.
No, he didn't.
He was the first one that was elected that did not meet the criteria of a president that you should have at least served one term
Yeah.
in the military, and he didn't even do that.
And yes, it is true that Donald Trump is indeed a draft dodger. Or he did have doctored reports. I'm not gonna deny that because I saw the damn things myself. I thought she was caught for a long time. Then I realized V was absolutely insane. Yeah, because
they sold that well in that
they
movie.
did. They truly did. And when you see that, when you see that, or go through Valerie's story, you kind of understand what happened, or you understand more of what happened in the background of the history that happens. Doctor notes. Yeah, I know, right? And, well, we got other ones. Obama was with his drone. Yeah, that also happened. Obama sucks. Yeah, he does, or he did, and still does. Teddy Roosevelt would probably have fought his way to safety like Rambo. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, you might have.
Teddy Roosevelt was a warrior.
He was a badass. He didn't hold back.
No, he didn't. He did what needed to be done.
Yeah, the only thing that held him back was just the actual rich people, like J.P. Morgan, for one, who literally bought the election for McKinley twice.
Yes. Didn't Evie say she wanted to learn to be strong? So V did what he did to help her. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
And yes, Marty, he did, or like most children of rich people back then, yes, to be fair, I'm not going to, or I will call out presidents that I support. I will call them out for their faults. Yes, Trump was a draft dodger. So I can understand how some people who are in the military would be kind of resentful for a president like that. But his policies did have positive actions in the U.S. or positive results. Now, have you ever gotten a... Oh, jeez. Have I gotten a Shaheen's sub recently? I haven't been able to get to Shaheen's Edward 720 or 7203. So the answer is no, I haven't been able to get up there to get a sub. So I am sorry about that. I will try to get up there sometime, though. It's been a while since I've been to Shaheen's to actually shop for a bit. He's from my hometown, that one. For those who don't know.
Gotcha.
I'm biased because I'm at Fort Bragg. Yeah. Is that place still open? Yeah. Also, my friend Marty, he's a childhood friend from my youth, so he also grew up in the same town that I did. So, yeah, I got some people from hometown representing. Thank you guys for stopping in. Indeed. So, yes, we then realize that she is being tortured and she hears Valerie's story. Valerie was a woman who was a lesbian, and it was important to the story. It's not a woke moment. This was back. These were movies made back when identity politics wasn't being forced.
Mm-hmm.
So it was organically flowing.
Yeah.
And when this scene is like, okay, so she's a lesbian. We understood that because she liked, or back in high school, she had a fling with a girl and she thought, or the girl moved on, got into guys. She didn't. She came out and they showed the anti-LGBTQ rhetoric. Her parents or her father could not stomach his daughter's lifestyle, so she was kicked out. The mother was beside herself. She still loved her kid. And Valerie then became an actress and she met her wife, and you learn about Scarlett Carson's. And during this time, you also learn that Valerie was brought to a detention facility where she was eventually killed due to the viral experiments and whatnot, and how she was tortured and how she was mistreated in this place. They rounded up people for sexual lifestyles that were not considered proper. They black bagged people literally out of the middle of the streets, like the Nazis did. It was literally Nazi behavior that this government in this movie acted out in. V for Vendetta kind of feels like a prophecy in a way. Riot Kitty, you are absolutely freaking right. And yes, I do have homies in the chat. What hell's yeah, home of 82nd Airborne. Yep. And thank you for your service too, rough girl. So we then figure out that Evie, after reading this, she has her steadfastness. She has no fear anymore. And she tells him, she's like, do you understand what is about to happen? Yes. Are you ready to cooperate? No. Oh, shit. She basically signed her own death warrant. And you think she's going to die. And during this time, you have Hugo Weaving basically trying to probe her a little bit with words like, you're going to die in here, you know that? Why protect somebody who doesn't give a shit about you? And then when he goes for the final time, he's like, look, all they want is a little bit of information. Give them anything. Thank you, but I would rather die behind the chemical sheds. Then you have no fear, and you're completely free. And he just walks off with the door open. What? And it's that what moment that you see. They must have skimmed over a lot if this is in this movie. Yes, I did accidentally skip over the coroner's death because the Scarlett Carsons were revealed to what they were before we hear about them in Valerie's because he kept her keyed up for a while. Yeah, he did, or locked up for a while. Yes, at her home. So, yes, the coroner, who was also the head virologist at Lark Hill, which the detective has been told to get off of that case because, well, he's digging into the past, and the government doesn't like that because if he finds out shit, well, yeah, let's just say it would be better if they didn't. And I love how they actually ask, if our own government was responsible for the deaths of over 100,000 people, would you really want to know? You know? And yes, this movie is actually this movie takes place around, I believe, the 2020s. Because they said that Valerie or met her wife in 2015. And then the years passed and the ascendancy of Chancellor Sutler came around, and that's a small passage of time. I would say maybe 2018. So yeah, I would actually say that this movie takes place around 2021 in this universe.
It's I just looked it up. It says it's set in 2027.
Oh, already then 2027 it
Not
is.
too far off.
Yeah, that isn't. It's 6 years, or no, it's more like 5 years, 5 years away because we're almost at 2022.
Yeah, and the graphic novel was 1997.
Yep. More chat
Oh,
reviews.
man.
I have to bow out. Daddy. Okay, Rough Girl, thank you for modding the chat. And folks, if you haven't subbed to Rough Girl, she has some nice content coming out. So definitely look to giving her a sub. Have a good night, Ruff. When's the communist religion was on, or when the communist religion was on the rise? Yes, basically. The foreshadowing is strong in this film. You are absolutely correct. And as I said, folks, we're not too far off from what actually happens with this government. This movie, or we are basically living the prelude to this movie of how our government is exploiting this pandemic currently to sow fear and panic into the country to keep people compliant. As V said, they robbed you of your common sense. You had the right to object, but now you have censors hiding information, and you have people who are responsible for this stuff. I mean, that doctor is basically, in my own opinion, the equivalent to Anthony Fauci, the virologist woman, the coroner in the movie.
Yeah.
She's basically Fauci.
Yeah, but at least she knows what she's working on.
Yeah, she knew what she was working on, and she actually had honest to good intentions, where Fauci is just a fucking asshole with a superiority complex, and he's absolutely loving up the spotlight going on photo shoots and whatnot. If you are a freaking doctor that's trying to better mankind with science, you should really basically say, I don't care about the spotlight. I care about my work.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And also, at least the coroner at least knew what she did was wrong.
Yes. And she even apologizes to V. She's like, is it too late to apologize? Never. And she's like, I am so sorry.
Exactly.
Now, continue what you were saying. Sorry for cutting you off.
No, I was going to bring that up. Is like at the end of the day, she understood that even if she had good intentions, she screwed up. And I think it's kind of realistic, because even some of the worst people that ever, came to be, some of them regret what they did. And when their time has come, they do ask, is it too late for forgiveness?
Yep.
And so I really like that scene, because even though V still killed her, he was like, no, I basically forgive you. In a sense. Like, you don't really hear him say, like, I forgive you, but it's more or less kind of like a mutual thing.
Did they come for my stream?
Did they?
No, it's still on.
Yeah, I'm still going here. So, what's going on in the chat? Is somebody are they
I think they're
censoring
just
the
trying, because of freaking YouTube's new policies on information and whatnot.
Oh yeah, they're probably saying
It'll probably like take you off, like not even listed after we're done.
Yeah, they'll probably say misinformation.
Yeah.
Yeah, the doctor's lady. And I also like her. She's like, are you going to kill me now? I killed you 10 minutes ago. Is there any pain? No. Thank you. It's a kindness that he shows her. But he is also very critical of her. It's impossible. Thank you for coming in. How you doing? V gave her a peaceful death. Exactly. But he was also, his hatred was also still there. He's like, I'm not here to judge you on what you would do. I'm here to judge you on what you did. And he said, yes, that was sweet, that was sweet in a bit of a morbid way. Yeah. As the detective said, some part of him is human. And then you hear the story of how she tells it. And the man in room 5, V, is the Roman numeral for the number 5. And you see him coming out and scream into the night after the fire wipes out the whole medical wing. And back in the DVD time, I actually brightened up that scene because I couldn't see it, and it's like, I want to see his face, you know? And it's not Hugo Weaving that does that. It's some other guy that comes in to do the scream and whatnot. And when I heard that in the theaters, I had to cover my ears because the freaking volume was just blasted. When he let out that scream, it's like, fuck, man. I just shot my hands up to the ears, and it's like, damn, that hurt. Baptism by fire, yeah. No, but you never know. Yeah, okay. But yeah, Agent Smith. Yeah, exactly. So then after Evie learns that she is indeed free and she got out, she finds herself back in the shadow gallery. And and he comes in. Hello, Evie. Like, as if he just did not torture the fuck out of this woman. Hello, Evie. You. That was you. Yeah. That wasn't real. Is Gordon? I'm sorry, but Mr. Dietrich's dead. I thought they would arrest him, but after they found a Quran in his home, he was executed. And she starts freaking out because she's like, you cut my hair, you tortured me. Why? And he explains it. You said you wanted to live without fear. This was the only way to do it. And every time I gave you an opportunity to give in, you didn't. And every time I knew that I couldn't give in. You can hate me all you want. And he basically tells her, you can hate me. Everything you see in me now, I saw in myself as I was doing that to you. And she's like, and he's like, or when she says, leave me alone, I hate you, that's it. You see, I thought it was hate too. Hate made me. It built my world, imprisoned me. It taught me how to eat, how to breathe, how to live. I thought I would die with all the hatred in my veins. Most understandable freak out in cinematic history. Yeah. When she freaks out, she basically is realizing this horrible thing has been done to me, but I am going to be stronger for it. She is coming to a million realizations at once, Evie, in this moment. And he sits her, or when she collapses, he's down there. He's like, this is the most important moment in your life, Evie. Commit to it. Even though she's also struggling to breathe because she's asthmatic. Hugo Weaving would make a good Sith Lord. You're damn right there, Soul Assassin. That's the freaking comment of the night. I mean, he would actually be more of a gray, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, that was dangerous. I'm going through the talking points. I'm just erasing the ones that we've already gone through. The council's fear of losing control and tightening the noose around their citizenry, because after he brings her up to the roof so she could breathe and whatnot, she goes out without fear into the rain. It's like, you're going to catch cold, woman. Hugo would have made a good Revenant. Okay, I think Epi just upped Soul Assassin. I don't know. I think Daniel Craig would make a good Sith Lord. Possibly. And it looks like YouTube doubled your comment there, right? So I do like how when she is putting her hands up and V is watching her and he's reminded of that when he was doing the same thing in fire and she is in water. It's a very nice parallel opposite mirror. So it really is very symbolic in that issue as well. And during this time, you see that Creedy is under, or not Creedy, but the council and Sutler is starting to lose his shit because they haven't found the terrorist, and they're talking about, it's like, we need to start talking about the eventuality that he may actually get away with it. He's like, he won't. And he's like, I want the message to resound through every newspaper, TV, radio, and the entire interlink, because the internet doesn't exist in that universe. It's the interlink. And he wants this terrorist found, and he wants to know what terror really means and whatnot. So before she leaves, V shows her that he wasn't the one who wrote that message that she was so taken with. It was actually Valerie herself who did it, and because she says, it's like, I thought about keeping it, but it wouldn't feel right knowing that you wrote it. And he's like, I didn't. And then he shows her the tribute to Valerie, and then she picks up on it. She's like, oh my God, this now makes sense. You're getting back at all of them for what they did to her and to you. And he's like, yes, what was done to me was monstrous, and they created a monster. Well, yeah. Now, when she is finally free and the council basically is like, we have to spin this. Well, the media is now used to devastating effect, where they're literally saying that the terrorist organization V was responsible for all the biological attacks that happened. And then we get to the detectives finding a black bagger named Rookwood, who is also played by V. And he tells them the entire story of how Chancellor Sutler came to power, how they used fear as the greatest weapon to give or to obtain power. When when most political opposition is dead or weak, then comes the false sense or the false security at the cost of your freedom. And he then tells them about how a virus is created and instead of using it on an enemy, along comes the spider, Mr. Creedy, who suggests we use it on our own populace to obtain power. Now, folks, I am not saying that this is a parallel, because our government did not create this virus. It has been established that it was created in Wuhan, China. However, we do have an American citizen piece of shit who funded gain-of-function research. A bit unrelated, but as a Catholic, Anakin being the literal force made flesh is an awesome bit of symbolism on George's part. Yes. Basically, Anakin was Jesus Christ. But yeah, that's Star Wars. And I do like how he tells, or the tool that they use to basically is a signal jammer. I have the kind of light that they use, that one that opens up and folds out. It's just a nice little, it's just a small little LED lamp that they put a red light in post. And it's like, hey, I have one of those.
Hey, I can jam stuff.
That would be cool if it could,
Yeah.
And you hear these people, or you then see the government driving around listening to people. Remember the 5th of November, and how they're all saying that the terrorist isn't dead, they believe he's alive, and that they all actually support what he's doing and whatnot. Peter Creedy is a great villain. Yes, he is.
He's a really good villain.
And I love how right after V talks to the detective, he then goes right after Creedy. He's like, hello, Creedy. And he basically puts the fear into him. He's like, that's why there's a camera in every corner of your house and a tap on your every phone. Bollocks. Oh, really? Now, if you want to stop me, there's only one way you're going to stop me. You're going to have to bring me Sutler, basically. He gives him the entire... He's like, why should I believe any of this? Because it's the only way that you're going to stop me. And what do I get out of this? Me. But you're going to have to bring me Sutler. And during this time, they're also explaining that there is that the only conceivable way that V could get away with this get away with the bombing is from an airplane. But Inspector Finch is saying that there could be a train, and he's like, what is your reasons behind this? He's like, it's just a feeling. I don't think our government will survive if we are to depend on your feelings, Mr. Finch. And then they freaking out because he told them, or he literally told Creedy, Sutler's going to basically fuck you over if there's too many more failures. And I absolutely love that as well, because I found the Vans I found the Vans funny because in the UK they tried to convince their citizens that they have trucks that can detect your TVs watching the BBC, which they have to pay a license for. Yeah, I heard about that you actually have to have a freaking license or something to watch certain channels.
Yeah, but they may be losing that license fee pretty soon because a lot of people have already like discontinued it and found a way to get out of it because they're tired of the crap they put on the channel.
Yep.
Or that they broadcast.
Sure, they love me, but the fear of the creature can make those that love me fall to my whims with a flick of my finger. That is power, boy. Luminara, Dragon Quest 9. Very nice. I know, off topic, but thought it was a fitting quote. It actually is, in a sense. That's basically how Chancellor Sutler sees himself. He sees himself as a god that wants everyone to remember why they need us. You know? And so we're getting into the final bit of the movie where they're freaking out and Chancellor Sutler's like, well, what if, or we need to talk about the eventuality that if the terrorist should win, he won't. I know, sir, but if he succeeds, and anything happens to that building, the only difference it will make, the only minute difference, is that instead of a newspaper, I will be reading Mr. Creedy's resignation. And he's like, I will hold you personally responsible for this, Creedy. And he's just going off on Creedy. And then the delivery of all the freaking masks, over 700,000, anarchy in the UK. And then you see the detective, basically, he goes to Lark Hill. And as he's there, he suddenly gets a premonition, so to speak, or a feeling of what might happen. And they tell her, and you see what happens where the girl that you see sprinkled throughout, where she's watching with her family, the girl with the glasses is running away from a fingerman who ends up shooting her because Sutler's like, I want anyone with those masks arrested. And I also love the guy that's freaking robbing a place. He's like, give me the fucking money. And he's like, this is exactly what he wants. Anarchy in the UK. Boom. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just freaking hilarious. So we then get to November the 5th. And Evie returns to V, as she said she would, because V actually asked if she would return before the 5th. And they dance, and he's like, I'm off, or I have a gift for you. And he shows her the train. And then he goes off to meet Creedy, but he tells her, after tonight, I am irrelevant. It will be a time for the people. We are literally at a tipping point here. I remember laughing at that one because it sounded so hammy. Yeah, it did. Right. Also, the dominoes the domino sequence was also funny because it coincided with what the detective was saying, and he then tips the dominoes, and the final one that didn't tip over, he just pulls up and kind of inspects. It really is a good scene. That entire scene was great.
I'd hate to be the one to try to set it up.
I know, right?
For extra context, that quote I just gave was right after the monster ordered the village to kill the boy that was protecting the creature, including his own father. Okay. Replace masks with MAGA hats. Yeah. Yeah. Can it be said that not all fascists are communists, but all communists are fascists? No, it cannot. Those two both work hand in hand with each other. Communism is fascism. Fascism is communism. They're synonyms, basically, or they're synonymous with each other. But yeah, we then get to V gifting the train to Evie, where she is literally the determining factor of whether or not Parliament is destroyed. She's like, or he's like, I'm giving this to you and the people to basically decide whether or not you want to break out of your own, or out of the shackles of tyranny. And then he goes to meet Creedy. And I absolutely love that scene. That scene between him and Creedy, where after they kill Sutler, he's like, no, that's done with. It's time to see your face. Take off the mask. No. And then two guards move in to try to take the mask, and he kills them. And he's like, defiant till the end, huh? Well, what are you going to do? We swept this place. You got nothing. Or besides your bloody knives and your fancy karate gimmicks. And we got guns. No, what you have are bullets, and the hope that once your bullets are gone, I'll no longer be standing, because if I am, you'll be dead before you can even reload. And I also he's like, so what's going to happen? The only thing that me and you have in common, Mr. Creedy, is that we're also both about to die. How do you figure that with my hands around your throat? He tells him. And then they shoot him, and it's a brilliant shot of him just getting shot. And then he just drops a little bit, and then you hear him breathing. My turn. And I love how when he throws the knives, they show the shadow of the knives moving with the blades. It is a lovely visual effects shot.
Yeah, that little matrix feel that they bring in.
Indeed. And then he goes off and he just slaughters everyone in the room, while some of them actually do get reloaded but die before they can get a shot off. Creedy, however, does manage to reload fully, and he shoots him. He's like, die! Why won't you die? Because underneath this mask, there's more than flesh. Underneath this mask, there's an idea, Mr. Creedy. And ideas are bulletproof. And then he grabs Mr. Creedy, hands around his throat, snaps his neck. And Ultra Instinct V, cue the campy Dragon Ball Super music. Yeah, I know, right? But actually, I like the music that they did a lot better. The ending for V for Vendetta is second only to Kingsman, The Secret Service, in terms of absolute madness in an endearing way. I can agree with that. And ideas are bulletproof. Yep. Cue Man of Steel music. So then after he gets shot, he's walking away, and you actually do see that he is bleeding. He drops the body armor, and you see that some of the body armor actually did pierce through or get pierced through with bullets. So, yes, V is actually dying. And the people are starting to march even after Chancellor Sutler recorded address to his fellow Englishmen. And I love how the army starts to panic. They're like, bloody hell, stand down! Stand down! You see, that's what a peaceful protest is, folks. Except that when we get a peaceful protest in America, we have the peaceful protests, which everybody calls, oh, it was a bunch of Proud Boys. It was a bunch of right-wing extremists. They're the ones causing all the problems. When you have the left-wing protesters who are actually more accurately depicted as rioters, fucking burning down cities and shit. Now, I love how, if you notice, none of the people who are dressed up as V attacked anybody. They just walked right by him through the barricades.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's what a peaceful protest is. And that's what we have seen, which is seen as some sort of form of evil in today's time in the United States. A peaceful protest is seen as evil, where cities burning is mostly peaceful. With the fucking city burning down, oh, it's mostly peaceful.
It's fiery, but mostly peaceful.
Yeah, buildings are coming down, but yeah, it's pretty peaceful over here.
Yeah, it's like, you fucking idiots. And so then the detective actually finds Evie, and he's like, take your hand off that lever. No. What? Or why are you doing this? Because he was right. This building, or the people don't need a building right now. They need hope. And you know what? With all the shit that's been happening nowadays, we do need a little bit more hope in our lives. A hope for a better tomorrow, you know?
There are 3 villains in media which I would consider almighty bitches. Luminar from Dragon Quest IX, Lusamine from Sun and Moon, and Chancellor Sutler from this movie. Good one, right? Mostly peaceful fires, yeah. I do love how in this movie V is baptized in flames and Evie is baptized in the rain. By the end, you can see how she's fully reborn and has become V's successor, sending off the train. And yes, she does send off the train. She's like, tell me, do you like music, Mr. Gordon, or detective? And so she takes him up to the roof where V took her. And V blew up the Old Bailey. Evie blew up Parliament, yes. And then Parliament was destroyed. Basically, the signaling or symbolizing the end of tyranny. And also, among all the people who took off the masks, you see the dead. You see Evie's parents. You see her little brother. You see the girl who got shot. You see Valerie and her wife. You see all of them during the end. And he asks, who was he? He was Edmond Dantes. And he was my father, my mother, my friend. He was you and me. He was everyone. And to think V only helped her initially because of his obsession with the letter V. Yeah, I know, right? So, and then we get to the credits streaming. So,
with that, we are going to ask the panelists, how would you rate the movie? Objectively or subjectively, it is up to you. We'll start with Austinator.
Before I get my final grade, there was actually one thing I wanted to bring up because I forgot about this.
right.
During that sequence where V took Evie to the roof,
Yeah.
and you have like that contrast of V coming out of like the burning building and having Evie out in like the rain. It was like they're like two sides of the same coin.
Indeed.
But they're kind of like, but they're different in their own way. Which I thought that was handled really well. Out of 10, I'm gonna give this movie a 9. I think this movie was really good, and even like and the political stuff, like I said, is just like it's kind of like holy shit, like the news twisting everything, like that's pretty accurate. And then you have the fucking idiots up in charge, of course, that's also true too. Using a pandemic to basically to increase fear. And that is also accurate too, because that is how they get you. Once you're afraid, that's where you're at your most vulnerable. And that's where you're not going to make your decisions are not going to be in the best of mind. Yeah. So I thought the way they handled the politics in this movie were really well handled, and a lot of the things they handled in this movie were done with a lot of respect for the most part.
Mhm.
Like it was really good. Just everything in this movie works for me. The acting was great. Like I said, the cinematography was great. Visuals were great. Action was really good too. The acting was great. Like V himself was a very unique character. Like everything about this film is unique, and it's just overall it's a very pleasant experience, especially if you're not somebody who's like into like if you're somebody who's like just like the casual moviegoer, watch this. That's really good.
Yeah, it's a good turn your brain off movie and turn your brain on movie.
Absolutely.
All right, Metalong, how would you rate it?
I'll agree. 9 out of 10.
Yep.
I mean, it's not perfect, but at the same time, there's not really much else bad about it. It's definitely entertaining for anybody that wants to just watch it, even with an open mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the tricky part, is getting people with an open mind.
Yeah, I know, nowadays. And as for me, I always do 3-tier reviews. Objectively, this movie is about an 8 to an 8.5. There are some issues, a little bit of weaker acting in certain areas. But for the most part, the scoring, the acting, the cast, the directing is all very well done. Choices of songs that were done in like the end credits, that does kind of become an objective flaw, because it's like, okay. I mean, yeah, I understand this song, and the lyrics, but it's like, okay, it is fitting, but it just kind of is not tonally fitting. But for the most, or subjectively, it is definitely a 9 to a 9.5 out of 10. I thoroughly enjoy this movie. Yes, I will address this right now, folks. You have often heard me in some streams and videos saying I don't like any politics in my movie whatsoever. But here's the thing. It wasn't until I recently watched the movie a while ago where I said that, or where I actually noticed the parallels to V for Vendetta and to today. So yes, while there can be political parallels, the movie was not made with intent of commentary on today's political atmosphere. So the movie, while it does have political annotations and allegory in it, it does not fit the criteria of being overtly political. So yes, while I do not like movies that are overtly political, whether they be conservative or leaning, or whether they be left leaning, I don't like it. There's a reason why I didn't watch the movie about Abby Johnson. While yes, I am against abortion and whatnot, I only want it safe, legal, and rare. I still will not watch that movie because I stand by what I said. I do not want that shit in my movies. I do not want political statements in movies. So, yes, subjectively, it is a 9 to a 9.5 out of 10. There is very little room for improvement in this film. It is done very well. As for my third tier, which is moviegoer, which is, I'm not deconstructing, I'm basing this movie solely on entertainment quality. This movie is a 10 out of 10. And I absolutely do enjoy it. It is fun to watch. I can watch it all the way through without fast forwarding and without pausing and whatnot. It is a pure joy to watch. And I do enjoy it. And I think that Hugo Weaving as V is one of the best casting choices ever. So with that out of the way, folks, we are, yes, mega make entertainment great again. Exactly. That is the thing that is sorely lacking in today's entertainment. Yes, there are people who are settling for lower rate entertainment, and there are people who don't pay attention to the entertainment or to the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. And you know what? In some ways, I do envy those people because I myself, because of my platform and what I do, I have to pay attention to it because it is worth note. But for those who don't pay attention to it, yeah, you're lucky because you aren't seeing this crap. But also, I believe that people should be aware of the crap that is being pushed and why so that they may know why entertainment has taken a downhill slope. Hold on 1 second. I had to sneeze and it didn't work. Orange, I have a recommendation for you. Scroll up. Okay. Right. I recommend
Oh, man.
Psychopaths. I've never heard of that movie.
Psychopath.
No, you said you weren't all that big on anime, but if you'd like to watch something in a similar vein to V for Vendetta, but from the side of the police and using tech to subdue and control, I recommend Psychopaths. Oh, I will look it up, right? I cannot tell you exactly when I will look it up, but I will look it up. Is it on Netflix? Cannot fathom being that willfully ignorant. You know, Christian, I can also agree with that as well, because there are people who do choose to turn a blind eye to the stuff. And, well, they say that, well, this movie didn't do good because of the pandemic. Well, you can't actually use that excuse anymore. Why are other entertainment venues selling out, like concerts and comedian halls and whatnot? They're selling out, where theaters, people aren't going to theaters to watch movies anymore because these movies are being politically or having politics and identity politics pushed in our faces. People are waking up to it.
Not to mention the price of a movie ticket these days. Jeez,
well, that too. I mean,
it's cheaper to wait and just stay at home and wait a month and a half.
I mean, actually, in small town theaters, that's why I recommend small town theaters. They have cheaper prices. The price for a movie ticket in the small town theater like mine is $7 for a ticket.
That's not bad.
Or
I remember those days.
If you go to a matinee, it's $6 for a ticket. And that's for an adult. For kids, it's, I believe, $6. And then for kids under a certain age, it's free. But yeah, also for seniors, it's $6 a ticket. But yeah, concessions, a tub of popcorn at my theater is $7, and that has free refills. So yeah, folks, if you want to watch movies nowadays, go to small town theaters, not the big corporate ones, because, well, maybe they could afford to lose $1 or $2, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, they lost a lot of money through 2020.
Oh yeah,
They lost a shit ton. Some of them almost went under.
Yep, AMC almost went under.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. AMC was probably the worst one.
Or date someone who works at a theater and get in free. Exactly. I sometimes find it amusing that drive-in theater is cheaper than a movie theater closer to my house. It's like $8 to get in, and the popcorn is like $5. That's awesome.
You want to know the first movie I seen at a drive-in movie theater? The Dark Crystal. That was the first movie I seen, and I was just probably 3 years old, and I remember that.
My first drive-in theater experience was Transformers: Dark of the Moon.
Ooh.
Because I had never been to a drive-in theater, and my dad's like, you know what? We're gonna go to the drive-in theater. And I'm like, I've never been to a drive-in theater. What's it like? He's like, well, you're about to find out. And during the pandemic, our own I actually recommended to my to the person who owns the theater in my town. It's like, think about doing a drive-in. Think about possibly, because they were shut down really bad. Businesses were going under in my area. I mean, one of our town famous mascot restaurant is shut down completely. It it went under, and it sucks because I absolutely loved having breakfast there.
Yeah.
I mean, homemade French toast. Who doesn't love that?
Oh man.
So I watched Planes. That was the first movie I watched at a drive-in theater. Nice.
I think my
And-
first drive-in movie, I think, was X-Men First Class. I think.
Interesting. That would have been a great movie for a drive-in theater. To be honest, since I got a projector and learned how to make cinema popcorn, they have nothing to compete with. Also, first drive-in was Romeo and Juliet and Independence Day. What was it, a double feature?
Yeah, I think so, because I think the drive that I went to was like a double feature. I think it was Pirates of the Caribbean, and also it was X-Men First Class, and I think I went to another one, but I don't remember what the movies were.
Huh. Interesting.
Hmm.
But yeah. Anyway, folks, that is going to wrap up tonight's stream. I do want to thank Force of Light Entertainment, Michelle, and even her sister, because her sister is also a member of Force of Light. She may not have been able to make it, but she was, or both of them are very kind and very great when it comes to their own content. And I do appreciate them coming on. Also to Metalong and to Austinator, thank you guys for coming on as well.
No problem. It's
Yeah,
fun.
no problem. I enjoyed myself.
Yeah. As for in 2 weeks, I will most likely have another movie planned out. I am actually thinking about doing, and this is not going to be a political stuff, but it is a but it was made because of politics and because of what happened 20 years ago. I am thinking about doing a discussion on the movie Zero Dark 30. So if anybody wants to join, let me know.
Ooh.
So, and also because of you guys being on the panel, you also get first dibs if you want to join the discussion.
Oh. Okay.
I've never seen that movie. I'm just looking it up right now.
It's basically about the hunt for Osama bin Laden.
Oh, that one.
That sounds
okay.
awesome.
Yep. So yeah, that will be the next discussion movie. It is, like I said, I am not doing series until next year. So definitely keep your ears out, folks. As for my versus stream next Friday, it is going to be Darth Zana versus Darth Talon from Star Wars. I believe I have a couple people on that one. Let me check. But yeah, I do want to thank everybody for showing up. Everybody in the chat, thank you very much for sticking around. So, Darth Talon versus Darth Zana. I got Man in the Middle, my friend Dakota, and Ambassador. So I have 2 more spots open for Darth Zana and Darth Talon. If anybody wants to join, feel free to contact me on Twitter or Facebook if you're friends with me on Facebook. You can easily look me up on Facebook. I am, or just look up Orange Hat Reviews. It's my nickname there. So thank you all for joining in. Have a good night, Riot Kitty, Soul Assassin, Christian Almanza, Marty, my friend, and everybody who joined in. Thank you all so much for being a part of this stream. Rough Girl and everybody else. Epi, yeah, I wish I could name all of you, but the chat is unfortunately stopped at a certain point, so I can't. But I do want to thank everybody who has been supporting my channel. Make sure that you sub to these guys, so when they start getting their content further off the ground, they can have a good and solid structure underneath them. You guys are all freaking amazing. Have a wonderful night. Don't forget to subscribe to Lethal Lightning for the full Aussie tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.
I love those guys.
I do too. They're great, and I make sure that I give them a shout out every night. And hope to see you all in the weeks to come. Also, my mystery review. I wasn't able to do it this week. I am going to try to do it next week. The hints are Alan Rickman and River and Extended Edition, meaning that the movie stars Alec Rickman, has a river in it, and also has an extended edition to it. So if you can figure it out from those hints, tune in to see if you're right, and I will see you all then. Until then, folks, this has been Orange Hat Reviews, and always remember, have a wonderful night, and stay humble.